Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Lamar, Toulouse, and you are tuned in to this week's Midweek Medicine. I appreciate you for joining us as we discuss biblical truths to help us overcome the obstacles that we face in life. And through the week, as we go through our busy schedule and the things that we have to deal with for the week, I want to give you some medicine, food for the soul, as we continue this year of growing in our spiritual walk with our main purpose in becoming more spiritual, to be spiritual. So we started a message Sunday entitled, My Faith is My Victory. And I want to continue in on that message. Inspired me, hope it inspired those that joined us Sunday. If you watched online, and you got encouragement from it. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch that message, because I want to continue on from that thought. I know I said I was going to be starting a series this Sunday, but I believe I want to keep in line with this message as we build to the next series that we're going to be starting, entitled Understanding the Rest of God. But we'll get into that. But I want to continue on in part 2 of the message from Sunday, My Faith is My Victory. So would you get you a Bible, get your phone out or your tablet, get something to take some notes with, and let's dive into today's message. Come on, go with me to Romans, the 3rd chapter, verse 3, and we'll begin the discussion of our message today. My faith is my victory. Romans, the 3rd chapter. Romans, the 12th chapter, verse 3. Go there with me. Romans, the 12th chapter, verse 3. Let's look at it. He says, For I say through the grace given to me, to everyone who is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly. Here is the key from which we took the passage from which we spoke the subject matter from. My faith is my victory, from this point. And God has given to every man the measure of faith, as it says in the King James Version here. But God has given to every man the measure of faith. Give me 1 second. Here we go. For I say through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, according as God has dealt to every man the measure of faith. So today, in summary, and giving the point and pulling out these points that we spoke of, I want to deal with this aspect of this passage here, that God dealt to every man a measure of faith, or the measure of faith. When we say the measure of faith, it is the measure that God gives. God doesn't give some of himself, he gives all of him to us, but we have to use what he has given to us for a purpose. Now, you have to remember, he has given a measure to every man. So in some illustrations, you see the measure. In some illustrations, you see a measure. So I can kind of understand where the translator was coming from. And to put it together is the measure comes from God, because he is nothing separated in him. But he gives us from the measure a measure, or a gifting, or a purpose given to the individual for God's use, for him to get the glory in the earth for the purpose and intent for which he sends that person to accomplish. So we have a measure from the measure. Come on, say that with me. We have a measure from the measure. So first point that I want to make, and the point that I want to get into in today's message, is that let's focus in on the measure that is given to us individually. It is God that dealt to us the measure. He dealt the measure to us. So first thing that we have to understand here is that God gives us a measure. It is given from God. This is where when you see an athlete or a musician or an artist that has received a reward for, or an entertainer, celebrity that has received a reward for their accomplishment from the gift that has been given to them, you would hear them say, first I want to thank God. Well, even we're not talking about salvation here. We're just talking about, I want to thank the Creator, the man above, the man upstairs, whatever you want to allude him to, for giving me the gifts that has brought this reward. And so in doing so, we're giving acknowledgement to who has given the gift. So first, when we understand that God has dealt to every man, every one of us on the face of this earth has a plan and a purpose from God, has been given gifts from God to operate in the earth. You have a purpose here. Every one of us born on this earth have a purpose to play out, and it is our responsibility to operate in this purpose. So let's talk about a few things from the measure that we have to cover. I want to talk about capacity or being conferred onto us, the gift that was given to us or bestowed upon us, and then the capacity for that gift, the capability of that gift, and then we want to talk about the courage to walk in that gift. So first, let's focus on the gift that has been conferred onto you, the measure that has been given. When he's given you a measure, he has granted that measure to you. And when we're talking about it being conferred onto you, it was granted, meaning God gave it to you through his promises, through what he promised us. He is faithful and just in his promise, and because we believe that he has dealt to us. So even if you feel insecure, if you feel like you are not significant, we have a misunderstanding because God has dealt to every man the measure. So therefore you are significant in the plan and purposes of God. But look at what the scripture says not to do. He says to every man not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, meaning no matter how good you think you only are that good because of God's grace that he has given you to operate in the gift that he has given you. So when we look at some of the greats, in the sporting world, or those that we would say the GOAT, the greatest of all time, that person has reached a peak of performance from the gift that has been given to you, but the glory should be to God because it's God who gave the gift. So when we are walking in our significance that God sees us as, we say to God be the glory because we know that we would not be significant if it had not been for the gifts that God has given us. So because of God the Father who gives the gift, I'm able to do the things that I'm doing. So I'm giving glory to the gift giver because of the gift that I'm giving out to those that would enjoy it, that would praise the gift, that would praise the person. So we have to be mindful not to let people praise you, but don't think that praise that they're praising you with is because of you. It is because of the gift that God has given you and the gift that he has dealt to you. So your gratefulness and thankfulness is that I'm walking in the gift. I'm walking in the measure that he has measured to me. So watch this. We are all significant in the eyes of God and have a purpose for which he has called us to and want us to walk out, and he has given us the capacity, the ability to be filled, like we are the container, and he puts the contents in the container. He puts the abilities, he puts the power, he puts everything in you in order for you to carry out the purpose. But watch this here. When he says not to think of yourself more highly than you ought to think, he looks at us as significance. But watch this. When we think that it is us that did it, and we or apart from God and he has no part in it, our significance of ourselves become insignificant to God. Because he can't use someone who is not looking to his plan and his purpose for the use. Or the person that's giving himself glory can find themselves like Nebuchadnezzar the king was in the old covenant, who found himself losing his kingdom because he thought he was the greatest. He made a statue unto himself. He wanted everybody to praise him. But God said, the same way I brought you up, I can bring you down. And sometimes we have to humble ourselves in thinking, we allow our egos to raise us up. But that same ego that raised you up, God can take that ego down and cause you to humble yourself and know that the gifts that you have, the ability that you have, and the measure that you have been dealt with comes from God. So the victory is not yours. The victory is the Lord's. You benefit from it, but we have to walk in that victory through the faith that has been made available to us. So God gives us the measure. You have to understand. It is God giving us the measure. So look at verse Ephesians, the 4th chapter, verse 7. So as he dealt to us the measure of faith. So now in Ephesians 4 and 7, we see that this is a gift that has been given to us. To every one of us is given grace according to the measure of the gift of Christ. And we're going to get into some of that this Sunday on a secret weapon that has been made available to us to walk in the measure of the gift of Christ. It is something that God wanted to do and promised to do, and it is our purpose to walk in it. So now that we see that the capacity that we have to have because of the significance, let's just build on that now from capacity to being capable. So first we have to look at the capacity. We are made to fill this vessel, or he has filled the vessel that he made for us to be significant in the plan and purposes that he's given us on the earth. And so now through the capacity, next you have to use the measure that has been given to you. So now we talked a little bit about this on Sunday about using the measure, because the enemy will come against you to bring you to a place beyond measure. But with the measure that he has measured to you, you utilize the measure to combat what the enemy is coming against you with. So now I have to understand that I am capable. So if God has given you something, if he's given you a dream, if he's given you a purpose, if he's given you a plan, then with that plan, he has to give you the ability to carry that plan out. Why would God give you a gift or give you a dream if he didn't give you everything that was needed for you to walk in that dream or walk that dream out and it become a reality? So you have in you the power to become. You have in you the power to learn. You have in you the power to come up with the ideas. You have in you the potential. So much potential that we have available in us that we do not use. As we've heard from the late Miles Monroe used to say, when we were coming up and learning leadership and learning the different things that he was teaching. And one of the things that stuck with me that he would often say is, how many of our ideas and dreams and ambitions have gone to the grave? If you pass by the graveyard, you see books that hadn't been written. You see songs that haven't been sung. You see business ideas that have never been brought to life because the person died with them on the inside of them. Dormant ability. Potential is dormant ability. Potential is what's on the inside but never been used, never been tapped into. You have to tap into that potential that God has given you. So we have the measure. It ain't that we don't have the potential. It doesn't mean that we don't have the purpose. It's just how many of us are tapping into what has been made available to us so that we can dominate in our area of gifting and get the results we would want that would change the scope of our lives and those that we come in contact with, where I am not only being able to walk in the blessing, I can be a blessing to others because I'm operating in the gifts and abilities that God has blessed me with. So you have to use the measure because we are capable. We are capable to do so. He's given us the gifts, and now he's also given us the ability to use those gifts to produce from within us. So a good story that I would like to use to bring this point out is the story of David. That David, it was in a situation where the Philistines were coming against them. And David went to see about his brothers, and then going to see about his brothers, he encapsulated everything that we're speaking of here in this teaching for this midweek message. That just as David, we have the same things available to us. God gave him a measure because of his giftedness and his leadership and his humility and the wisdom to walk in the things of God. He understood that if God is for me, who can be against me? So he found himself in a place to where what was on the inside of him is about to come out of him because of the battle that he was facing. See, some of the storms that we face, some of the situations and circumstances that we face is not to destroy you. It is to develop you and to bring out of you the gift that has been on the inside of you. The gift that's on the inside of you is preparing you for the battle that you're going to face. That you have the ability on the inside of you to overcome this situation that you're faced with. You don't have to be in fear of the situation. You have to know that this situation has come to reveal the truth in me that God has put the measure, and the measure needs a storm so the measure can be seen. It's not going to be seen without the difficulty. It's not going to be seen without the adversity. It's through the adversity that you are being revealed. It's through the fire that you are being revealed. Come on. And because of the fire, the measure that he has given unto you is about to come alive. I know you're going through a little something right now. I know you're faced with a difficulty right now. I know some adversity is up against you. But what I'm telling you is use the measure, because the gift that he has given you on the inside is calling you out to come and say, hey, look, you can face this thing, and this thing doesn't have to destroy you. It's about to make you. So look at 1 Samuel, the 17th chapter, starting at verse 29. And I'll sum up the story for the sake of time. But David is about to go into battle. And look in verse 29. Let's go there. First, David says, is there not a cause? Meaning, they're coming against and saying these things against our Lord. Is there not a cause? Meaning, is there not a purpose and a plan to fight? But David sees himself now. He's understanding the gifting that has been given to him, that though he's not king yet, but he has been anointed king. Meaning the anointing is just to show the world that this gift is on the inside of him. Not that he's walking in that gift just yet, but he has been anointed, or it is the gifting that's working on the inside of him that's about to come alive. And so now they bring him before Saul, and he's trying to tell Saul, hey, look, they're coming against the armies of the Lord, and we have to fight this battle. Send me, I'll fight the battle. And Saul is like, well, David, you don't have experience in this. And David goes to explain to him how God delivered him from the bear, how God delivered him from a lion, and if God delivered him from the bear and the lion, he'll deliver him from this uncircumcised Philistine. Meaning the Philistine is not in covenant with the Lord like David is in covenant with the Lord. So although the Philistine is stronger, he's a giant, and he's mightier, he is not mightier than God. So look, I don't need nobody else on my side but the Lord. And if the Lord is on my side, this giant thing that's against me cannot withstand me, because he's put a measure on the inside of me for me to be able to overcome this situation. So you have to see how to use the measure that he has met, because you have the potential to do so. No matter how weak you feel in the battle, you have the potential to overcome it if God is on your side. And that is what he is saying here in him meeting with Saul, how he delivered him from the lion and delivered him from the bear. And Saul armed David with his armor. And so here goes the key to potential. Saul armed him with his armor, gave him his helmet, gave him the brass of his head in his armor, and armored him with a coat of mail. Look at the next verse. And David girded his sword upon his armor, and he looked at it, for he had not proved it. And David said to Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not proven them. And David put them off of him. Look at verse 40. And he took his staff in his hand, and he chose 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and put them in a shepherd's bag which he had, even in a scribe, and his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine. Saul tried to give him his armor that wasn't proven. See, God didn't deliver the lion and the bear with that armor that Saul was giving him. So this is a perfect example of potential and gifting that God has given. Use what God has given you to use to win the battle, not what someone tries to put on you to use to win the battle. Because God knows how you work, and you know you work with the things that you have proven. So, look, I can't go to this battle with something that I know God didn't call me to or God didn't use me for. So because of me knowing what I have, a slingshot and a stone defeated the enemy, because it was what God intended him to use for the battle and for the purpose. So the last one that I would bring you to, and let's close out this message today. He says, now unto him that is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think. Here goes that word think again. According to the power that's at work in us. God works the work through us according to that power. We tap into it by faith in the power that God has made available to us. I'll pick it up next week because we're out of time. Oh man, time flies by when you're in this word. Come on, we're going to continue on with it. Tune in next week as we continue in this midweek medicine. God bless you.